You know, like you mentioned, when we talked the other day, some great things about this app, but it's also something that a lot of them be able to do, can be able to make that happen on their own. And especially if we get a base of people that understand it. So it looks like we got a good crowd right now. So
yeah, we got a nice crowd.
Without further ado, get us going, Mo.
All right. Thank you, Derek. Mr. Conley. I know that in the school they call you Mr. Conley. I had the good fortune of sitting in a clubhouse room where you brought some of your people school into the room. I don't know if any of those people are here now.
I think we have a couple of them on here.
Yeah. So it was just funny for me because we've been in many rooms together, and it's always Derek. And all of a sudden your school people are there, and it's Mr. Conley, and rightfully so. You deserve that respect. And clearly by the response that we're getting here from your administration, from your staff, it's well deserved. And it's no wonder to me, because I hear the way you talk, your vision for education, your passion for the kids, the focus on relationship. It's no wonder that we are getting all together. We have a lot in common. So we'll get started. I'll just introduce myself very briefly. I'm a social worker. That's my background. I came into the school system as a social worker, and I noticed two problems really quickly. The first problem was that teachers are overwhelmed and overburdened. There's so much going on. Forget about COVID, we'll talk about that in a minute, but pre-COVID, every problem that happens in a classroom becomes the teacher's problem. The teacher, for the time that the kids are in their classroom, is their mother, father, brother, sister, aunt, uncle, friend. Every hat that you can wear as a teacher, you are that to every kid in your classroom. And it's difficult. It's difficult. So that was the first problem. The second problem was that as a social worker, by the time the kids were brought to my attention, they had already been struggling for such a long time that the problem was a much worse problem. There's the old adage of an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Because there's so much going on, all of the obvious warning signs are easy to miss. They're hard to see. And so this was a problem that was very important to me. I was trying to figure out the best way that we can solve this problem, the best way that we can manage this. And it became clear to me that we need to give teachers clear and simple directions. What is your goal for today, right? We're going to have a first day of school. How do you know at the end of the day if the day was successful or not? Now, we all have this feeling. We all have intuition. We all know if we're doing a good job or not in a general sense. But how do we know that we really did our job in a way that's concrete, in a way that is recordable, reportable, in a way that's measurable? Because if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. You can only manage the things that you can measure. This is a quote that I read from Edwards Demings, who was very involved after the Second World War in Japan and helping Japan revitalize their economy. So, and then we come to the pandemic. There's a lot to talk about the pandemic, but there's one thing that excites me, and that is opportunity. And I think we have an opportunity now with this upcoming school year. The kids are hungry, okay? And I don't mean that they're hungry for lunch. They're hungry to have a real classroom again. They're hungry to be with their friends again. They're hungry for the support and the care and the love that they're going to receive from their teachers. And we have an opportunity now that we probably never had before. And that is to be able to deliver for them the support that they want. Remote learning it works in a certain sense. We made it work. We had no choice. We had to make it work. But being able to come back to school changes everything. And so this is really, really a unique opportunity. And when you frame it that way, it's exciting. Opportunity is always exciting. Challenges, sometimes exciting, sometimes difficult. Opportunity is always exciting. And so I want to present to you what I started to do after talking with teachers and parents and students about how to really focus and make things clear and simple for teachers. One day I was on a train and I was watching somebody play Subway Surfers, right? You could raise your hand. There's a little raise your hand feature in the reactions. You can raise your hand if you've ever played Subway Surfers, right? Most of us know that game, have played that game. And I've played it many times. But this one time I was watching somebody else play it on the train, and I was watching how this person with such precision was swiping up and down and to the right and to the left to avoid the obstacles. And I was thinking, if we can make it as simple as this, as just 4 directional swiping, then we can really impact education in a very positive way. And the idea was not to just another point system, because the point systems don't work for a lot of kids. In order for a point system to work, the child has to have trust in the system, which many of them don't, trust in the teacher, which unfortunately many of them don't. So we can't look at a point system. So the idea of ClasStars was, we're going to create a tool that's going to make it really easy for teachers to follow a simple framework that makes sure that every kid gets the attention that they need. Because as a teacher, and this comes to the title of the meeting, your most valuable resource in your classroom is you. It's you, it's your attention, it's your care. And if you focus it on a certain area, that area will thrive, will do well. The kids who can get our attention will be okay. They may struggle a little bit more, they may struggle a little bit less, but they're going to get through if they have our attention, if we're on it. But unfortunately, it's the kids that we don't give attention to. And it's almost like, X-ray vision. It's like heat vision. When you focus your attention somewhere, it gets solved, the problems get solved. If you don't know to focus your attention there, then it doesn't. And the idea of ClasStars is to help teachers identify the students that are not getting identified, that are not getting the support, that are not getting the attention. And we're going to jump right into it. And Mr. Conley, I'll allow you to share your story when we met last week of how you tried really hard to overcome a certain difficulty when you were in school. And had your teacher had ClasStars, as soon as we explained that component of ClasStars, how that would have been a huge help for you as a kid in school. So let's jump right into it. Now, if any of you have an iPad or an Android tablet with you, you can even walk through this with me. You can go to the App Store and download this app for free. I wouldn't tell you to do it instead of watching this, but if you happen to have an iPad or an Android or a Windows device that's not the computer that you're using right now, you can go to the App Store and in the search bar, type in ClasStars. It's with 2 S's in the middle, one word, ClasStars, and download the app, and we can go through it together. So in the meantime, I'm going to do a screen share. And once you download the app, the first thing that you're going to be asked to do is to sign up. The first screen is going to look something like this. Okay, you're not going to have this first bar. Now I'm going to use the arrow here so I can point where I'm pointing to, but everything is much simpler when you're using a touch screen. Okay, when you sign in initially, you're going to have these 3 options. Google, sign in with Facebook, sign in with Apple. And is
Post-it note holder.
Is everything okay?
Welcome. Thank you.
Guys, hey, could y'all make sure we got you muted so we don't
Okay, yeah. So if everyone can please mute, and we'll have time for questions, obviously. So you hit one of these 3 buttons, you give Google, Facebook, or Apple your information that authenticates that you are who you are, and then you can come in. But we'll just tap the continue to classes button. When you sign up, you'll automatically have this demo class. This is a class that we set up for you that allows you to see the kids, how it would work before you set up your actual class. If you want to set up your actual class, you tap this button and we'll go through that afterwards. So this is the class, this is the demo class. And again, these are random kids, so there's no privacy issues with showing this. And in order to start a class, you tap on the apple here. You can title your class if you'd like, and then you hit the start session button. Now, we do have an option for taking attendance here, but since a lot of schools already have attendance systems in place, you can bypass that. So we'll come to the attendance later. This is your session screen. This screen could be customized however your actual classroom is set up. So by having it set up the way your class is set up, it makes it super easy to find the kids. And the first thing that I ask you to do is to make sure that every kid gets some kind of positive feedback every day. This is not a point system where kids need to earn this. This is an entitlement. Kids deserve to get the encouragement and feedback and to be seen every day. And when you give a kid positive feedback, and I'm sure this is baked into the culture of your school from knowing your principal, positive feedback means you make eye contact with a child, you call them by their name, and you tell them something specific, positive about them. It could be something that they did. It could be just something about them that you like, and it's positive feedback, and that is magic to kids' ears. And when you do that, all you need to do to record it is swipe up on the kid. And just like that, it takes less than a second. You just swipe up, and you'll notice that every time I swipe up on a child, there's this little green meter. Some of these kids have them, some of them don't. This green meter keeps the last 2 days of positive feedback. So as I'm going through the class, giving different kids positive feedback, I can always look at this and identify the kids that have either gotten no positive feedback over the last 2 days or the least positive feedback over the last 2 days, because those are going to be typically the kids that are at risk of going unseen and unnoticed. So this is the first ask. And to make it even simpler, what I'm asking teachers to do now is to take 5 minutes of your period. Divide your class, however many kids you have in your class, divide it into 5. So if let's say you have 30 kids in your class, you have 5 groups of 6. And just take a minute at different intervals throughout your period, throughout the class, and engage 6 kids. So it doesn't have to take too long. You know, you could say, Jess, I really like the way you did your homework today. You can say, Colin, wow, those are the coolest sneakers I've ever seen. And you go through each kid one at a time. And at the end of the day, you should see that you've hit everyone. If you miss somebody, the next day you prioritize them and you give them even more positive feedback to keep it balanced. You also have the option, after you're giving positive feedback, to rate on a 5-point scale the positive feedback by tapping on one of these 4 smileys. This is a 5. If you tap on the middle one, that's a 3. So you're not only able to record who you gave positive feedback to, but you can also give it some kind of a qualitative value, which is more important when we talk about misbehaviors, but is a worthwhile way of recording. So it's very simple, very easy, and everything is timestamped. So you'll be able to see later, and I'll show you that in the charts, the times that you're engaging different kids, because sometimes kids need support at different times of the day. We all know that. Some kids have a hard time in the beginning, getting settled. Others need lunch a little earlier. They get hungry, they need a snack. Everyone is different, and ClasStars makes it really easy to see that. So again, step 1, make sure that you encourage every single kid every single day. Step 2 is dealing with misbehavior. But before we move on to step 2, I just want to make sure that everything is clear. I'm just going to come back to this screen to get to see everybody. Does anybody have any questions? Or, ooh, we have a couple of people waiting to join the room. Sorry about that. Okay. Any questions so far? If anybody wants to raise their hand or ask a question, up until this point now is a good time. Okay, great, fantastic. We're going to jump back into the screen. Oh, okay.
I'm sorry. So is this going to be available to download on our iPhones, because it's not in our app store?
So it doesn't work on a phone at this point, because as you'll see, it's too much information to put onto the screen the size of a phone. So you need a tablet, you need an iPad. Any tablet should work. It's on Google Play. If you have an iPad, then you will see it in the store, but it's not going to show up in the store on the phone, because like I said, we didn't want you to have to scroll. We want to put all the kids in front of your face all day. We want you to love these kids so much, you never miss them. And you look at those 2-day meters and you don't have to do anything. You just look at it, you'll see it's bright green. So the kids that are getting it, you see that. The kids that are not getting that, you see that just as well. So yeah, I apologize for that, but right now that's how it is.
I want to let you know, Mo, we got like some of our teachers here that are with us don't have, we've got our 1st and 2nd grade teachers have iPads. We don't have it for all of them, of course, unless they have their own personal. So I just want to share that with you. Now, okay. They can have it with them on the iPhone. It's just, it's hard to read the data, correct? As far as being able to.
No, it won't. We're playing around with it now, trying to make it available for the phone, because we are hearing that a lot of people don't have iPads, but it's not even gonna show up in the App Store because we don't want you to, we spend so much time and effort to make the experience right for the teachers. We want it to be simple. We don't want you to get a half-baked experience. It's not gonna go over well. We want this to be so easy to use, you know, from the color coded to the class layout to the pictures of the kids. If you have to squint to see it, it's not going to be the same. So, you know, if you have an Android tablet, that is also fine. It's on Google Play. It looks exactly the same. What I'm demoing for you here is actually from Windows. So if you have Windows machines that are touchscreen or even not touchscreen, you know, those can probably work as well. So, you know, that's what we're working with right now.
I want to let you know, I mean, he knows that people that are here, I appreciate their time. We got it before, but we are different about relationships, Mo. We are. But he talked about my story. And I forgot we even talked about this. I'm a little. So when I was in 8th grade,
hang on a second, Mr.
Did I tell the story yet?
No, not yet, because we're going to do the misbehavior part, and that's where your story comes in.
But they could probably figure out my misbehavior was happening in 8th grade.
So the first step is to record the positive feedback. Now, the second thing is when we talk about misbehaviors. And one of the things that is so frustrating about misbehaviors for me is that we're not really prepared for it. When a child misbehaves in a classroom, we're very often surprised that this child is misbehaving. And how do we measure progress in misbehavior? The way we measure progress in misbehavior is you have a baseline of the misbehavior. And then when there is a significant decrease in either the frequency of the misbehavior or the level of disruption of the misbehavior, that's going to be progress. So progress for a kid who's acting out 10 times a day is going to look very different for the progress of a kid who's acting out 3 times a day. A kid who's acting out 10 times a day, if we can get them to act out only 6 times a day, we're moving in the right direction. But the only way you could know this is if you're keeping track. And it's really hard to keep track of misbehavior because it's always disruptive to the lesson. You come in to do a job and the misbehavior kind of gets in the way. So how do we balance that to make sure that we understand that in most cases, misbehaviors are the child's way of asking for help. It's not the most functional way to ask for help, but they're asking us for help. There's something not right. So the first thing that we do is we make it super simple to keep track of misbehavior. When a child misbehaves, all you need to do is swipe down on the child, just like that. And that records, again, with a timestamp, that this child misbehaved at this time. You also have the option to record how disruptive it was on a 5-point scale. So if it was super disruptive, you'd give it a 5-point rating. By default, if you don't record anything, it'll be a 1, but it's just super simple. Swipe down, and then a tap gives you that added layer. And again, we timestamp it for you, and you'll see the charts. You'll be able to see when everything happened, because the time of misbehavior is very important. Sometimes kids act out the same time every day, and when you see that pattern, that time pattern, you can address it in a much more comprehensive way. Also, because we make it so simple to record a misbehavior, we can now look at it more objectively, and we have a frequency. If you swipe down on a child 5 times, and that's happening every day, you know that their baseline is 5 times a day, and you'll see that in the charts. Now, before we get more into that, once you get comfortable with this swiping up and swiping down system, if you tap on this button here in the bottom right, that toggles it from single swipe mode to full function mode. Okay, now bear with me sometimes because of the Zoom, this lags a little bit, but when I swipe up on a student on full function mode, I get the positive feedback wheel. So now I have an added layer of data that I'm collecting. I can tap if the student showed good self-control, maybe performed an act of kindness, maybe made a good decision, maybe showed a good effort, or maybe didn't do anything, but I just want to encourage them. So a swipe up and a tap. And then again, I have the option to rate it on the 5-point scale. So there's an added layer of effort because now it's a swipe and a tap instead of just a swipe, but I get that extra detail. Similarly with swiping down with misbehavior, and here's where the lag comes in. Sorry about that. Just give me a second for this. Okay, you swipe down and you get the misbehavior wheel. And these are the common classroom misbehaviors. We have talking, unprepared, conflict, disruptive, distracted, not seated, or other. So if Jocelyn here is distracted, I'd swipe down, type distracted. Maybe I want to say it's a pretty mild distracted, not nearly as distracted as she used to be, so I can record that. And I can see that progress as well when it's going from a 5 to a 4 to a 3 in the 5-point rating, and also when I see a decrease in the frequency. Okay, now, as you said, Principal Conley, relationships are key. When kids feel that you care about them, they will work harder, they will overcome difficulty, they will persevere. Unfortunately, and I've seen this a lot, and you'll tell me if your experience is the same, there are a lot of kids that no matter how hard we try, they don't know that we care about them. They feel like we don't care about them, and they're very discouraged, and they tune out. And in fact, that's where the point system becomes completely worthless, because the kid will not try to earn points for a system that they don't have faith in. So how do we make sure that teachers are developing strong relationships with each and every one of their kids? So there's this really fascinating research that I came across from the Gottman Institute. They are an institute based out of Seattle, and they study relationships. They are so good at understanding relationships that they can actually watch a couple discuss a disagreement, have an argument for only 3 minutes, and with over 90% accuracy predict if the couple will still be together in 10 years. And it's remarkable, but what's even more remarkable is the way they do it. All they do, and in a minute you'll be able to do it too, all they need to do to know whether this couple will still be in this relationship in 10 years or not, they count the number of compliments and criticisms that are given. And what they have found is that couples in a strong relationship, even when they argue, still give 5 compliments to every criticism. And couples in a weak relationship that will not survive 10 years give only 0.8 compliments to every criticism. So there is a huge disparity in the ratio of compliments to criticisms depending on the quality of the relationship. And I thought about, how does that play out in a classroom setting? Because these kids who are struggling, they're getting criticized for their struggle, and perhaps rightfully so. Are they getting 5 compliments to every criticism that they get? There are some PBIS classrooms that try to do this, but how do we even do this in a practical sense? How do we make sure that kids are getting 5 compliments to every criticism, or even to make sure that they're at least 1-to-1, which is not good, but very often the kids that are getting criticized get the least positive feedback. They get the least compliments, and that's not good. And that's where you'll notice some kids here have orange circles around their picture, others have yellow. Some of them over here, Davey here in the bottom right corner has a blue circle around his picture. The border colors reflect the ratio of the positive feedbacks to the negative feedbacks. Okay? Now, typically when we're recording misbehavior, if there's a lot of misbehavior, that means that a consequence is in order. Not with ClasStars. There might be a consequence in order, but that's not our focus. Our focus is that a kid that has a swipe down, that's a reminder for the teacher to engage that kid even more. So if a kid has more swipe downs than swipe ups, they'll actually have a red border. That indicates that they have more negative records than positive feedback. That's not intended to penalize the child. That is a reminder for you, the teacher, catch this kid being good. This kid needs more support. They are struggling. Their relationship with you is at risk, and you need to be more positive with them than everybody else. So we have a 2-tiered system. Number 1 is the 2-day meter. Everybody needs to be seen every day. No kid should come and be invisible from their teacher from positive feedback on any day. And if it happens, the next day they need to be prioritized. Step 2 is the kids that are struggling. Tier 2 is the kids that are struggling need even more support. So by looking at the border color, you could see any kid with a red border, they need to be prioritized once everybody's got some green in their meter. Once they get to a neutral ratio, 1-to-1 or better, their border color will turn orange. When you keep giving them positive feedback and they get to a 3-to-1 positive to negative ratio or better, their border color will turn yellow. It turns blue at 5-to-1 and green at 7-to-1. So with ClasStars, the teacher can look at this screen and instantly identify the kids that need their support the most based on these 2 so important criteria. Number 1, everybody needs every day. Number 2, the kids that are struggling need even more. And this is how ClasStars helps teachers foster very strong relationships with their kids, because they're just being so positive. And here's the thing, everybody wants to do this. The reason why teachers aren't doing this is not because they don't want to or they don't think it's important. The reason why they aren't doing this with every kid is because, like I said all the way at the beginning, they are just piled on so much work that something's got to give. And very often it's the kids that get overseen. So this is the idea of the swipe up, swipe down. There's a lot more to it than this, but here's where Mr. Connolly's story comes in of when he was in 8th grade. Go ahead, take it away.
Well, I'm sure it's hard for them. It's easy for them to understand that I'm had a little difficulty with being distracted. A few, and then we had at that point we got conduct grades. Miss Benton, you know about conduct grades, right? So anyway, this one day I was really having a very bad day, Mo. I mean, it was bad. Okay, and so I was not a very good student. Sorry, Senor Saucedo. I just wasn't very good. Okay. And I had such a bad day. It was like the second week of the 6 weeks. And we had a point system where, like, for every point, it affects your conduct grade. Well, I got like 10 points. Miss McFadden was having a bad day. I was having a bad day. Anyway, my conduct grade went below 90, which was a big deal to me because I wanted to make straight A's. I was making straight A's all the time. So it was the second week of school of the 6 weeks. So I went home, my mom and dad, I was in a lot of trouble. I told my mom and dad, I'm going to sit back at the back of the room and not say another word. I really did not interact with any other student. I walked in, sat at the back of the room, didn't do anything for 4 weeks. Unless somebody called on me, I didn't really say a word. And when the day she deducted points, she deducted down to like an 88. Okay, so I'm below 90. 90 was my goal. So I went 4 straight weeks and didn't say a word and tried to cooperate, did everything I could. And then I got the report card, guys, and I still had the 88. And then ended up, I was like 3rd in my class. We had an 8th grade graduation back then. I wasn't even recognized because I had the B in conduct. I didn't get to be an A honor roll. And I tried so hard. That's what I told Mo. I tried hard for those 4 weeks, and I got it for the rest of the year. I was terrible in her class because I made an effort, and I didn't see any gain in my effort by trying to do right. And I think the ClasStars, a lot of things that we're looking at as far as behavior, but it's also what I love about this that Mo does different from other places. It allows us as the educator to be the one that's making that, documenting our affirmations. But it also, when the kid's doing well, let's give them some credit, give them some affirmations, and track that. I believe if Miss McFadden would have had this, I would have had a better experience in 8th grade math, and she would have had a better experience with me.
Yeah. One of the things that I came up with before we started to develop ClasStars was the term that I call invisible progress. Because kids would actually come to me and they would tell me, I'm not trying anymore because it doesn't matter. And I would say, what do you mean? Of course it matters. The teacher cares about you. And I would, say all the things that I needed to say that I knew were true. I would never, tell a child something that I didn't think was true. And they would say, no, it doesn't matter because I tried really hard for the last 2 days and the teacher still treats me the same way. And what I realized is that, like that example that I gave beforehand, you have a kid with a baseline of, let's say, 10 misbehaviors a day, which is obviously very severe, but I'm just using that as an example. And then one day they only acted out 2 or 3 times. In the teacher's mind, unless you're actually swiping down on each misbehavior, this child is still acting out. Teachers want to see concrete progress. And unless you have the record for it, the progress becomes invisible. And when kids don't get the feedback, don't get the encouragement that their efforts make a difference, they just give up. So, to me, invisible progress is a pandemic that has been going on for a long time. It is so discouraging. It's terrible. Let's get back into the screen share and I'll show you some of the charts. And if there's still time, and of course take questions. And if there's still time, I can show you some more of ClasStars features. So you do this, you have this with you. It's always within arm's reach. I always tell teachers, this should not dominate your day. You should dominate your day. You're the teacher, you're the superhero, you're the one with the magic. This is just a tool that helps you budget your attention, which is your most valuable resource, your attention. Wherever you're focusing, that's where problems are solved. And as far as misbehavior is concerned, there is no easier way to record a misbehavior then by swiping down on a student, tapping on the item that they have, and then if you want to give it a 5-point rating. That's just the simplest, quickest way to record it. Once you take out a pen and click it, you've already done the same work. You didn't even put the pen to paper yet. And again, we're not recording misbehavior to penalize the child. We're recording the behavior as objectively as we can, because that sets the baseline for how we prioritize the kids in regards to positive feedback. It's a completely different model than any point system. Because, and I remember when we started testing this a number of years ago, a teacher said, do I really need to record every misbehavior? Can I sometimes look aside and pretend I didn't notice? And my response to the teacher was, it depends on your motive for recording the misbehavior. If you're recording the misbehavior to penalize the child, then it's great to look aside. But if you're recording the misbehavior because you understand that a misbehavior is a cry for help, if a child cries for help and you look aside, that's not helping that child. So we have to do it for the right reasons, and we have to frame it in the proper way, which is what we're doing, prioritizing those kids that are struggling the most. So when you finish the class, you tap on this door, this exit button. That's going to close the class. And it's important to close the class because we're timestamping everything. So it's important to know when the class starts and when the class finishes. And then we come to the dashboard screen. Okay, now we have the first dashboard is the snapshot dashboard. You can select your date range that you want to look at. You could pick your start and end dates right here, but I'm just going to select all sessions. We have a couple of presets. We're just going to look at all the sessions because this is random data. So it doesn't really make sense by itself, but you get the idea of it when we gather all the data. Every student has next to their picture, of course, they have their border color and their 2-day meter. So you can see how they're doing as far as that's concerned, but they also have 3 icons next to their picture. The top one represents how they're doing academically because we have a formative assessment tool, which hopefully we'll get to soon. Beneath that is the behavior icon. That's what we've been discussing. And beneath that is the attendance icon, which again, we didn't really get into attendance. And it works with basic traffic light colors. If the student is doing well, it's green. If they're really struggling, it's red. And if they're kind of in between, it'll be yellow. And this allows you to see on a daily basis, based on the data that you're collecting, how the student is doing. You don't need to wait for a test. You don't need to wait for a report card or the end of the term or anything like that. You start and end your day with this. And once you see, for example, that Bonnie here is really struggling with attendance, you can drill down a little bit further. But we're going to look at the behavior dashboard. You tap on this behavior button over here. And instead of the 3 icons, now you get a small bar chart next to every child. And the bar chart is going to show the bar on the left are the positive feedbacks. The green is the up swipes. The yellow beneath it is for positive academic. That's part of the formative assessment. And the bar on the left is for the down swipes or also academic incorrect. And if you tap on the bar chart, you can see the counts: 38 positives, 23 negatives, 41 correct, and 10 incorrect. So you can see this for the entire class. And you could see here how everybody has a very healthy ratio of positive to negative. We don't have anybody that's in red. There are some that are in orange that are a little bit closer, but we have a lot of yellows here, and we even have one Davy. And again, this is all random data that the computer generates for you when you set up a demo class. So this gives you super detailed data that you have at your fingertips on demand. If you want to drill down even deeper, you tap on the 3 dots here, and that takes you to the individual behavior dashboard for that student. So now we're looking specifically at the student whose picture and name will appear over here. Just takes a second to load up because I'm on Zoom. So here we have Sitara Sima. And here at the top, we have the timeline. So here we're looking at May 16th all the way through yesterday, August 16th. But you could see that here there's no data because this is just a demo class. And we're going to pull the date range in, and we're going to look at May 16th through June 12th. So we have approximately 4 weeks that we're looking at. Okay. And here is a filter bar that I can slice out and look at specific events that I want to look at or don't want to look at. And for this, we'll just hide all of the academic events since we didn't talk about that yet. So we'll hide those events, tap on done. And now you have here, right beneath it on the left, a list of every single event. The name of the class, that it's a demo class, the icon and name of the event, the date and time that it happened. And if you gave it a point rating, that's going to show up here like you have here, the 3 smileys, the 3 smileys, the 3 frowning faces. That's all going to show up here. You can also add a note to it by tapping on this note icon and add a note, which will display right here in the tile. So here you have every single, and you can scroll down to see everything that happened. And this is all within this date range. Whatever's outside of this date range is not showing here. Here's your legend. Green is for positive, red is for negative, yellow is for academic correct, and orange is for academic incorrect. The top donut chart gives you all the recorded records. This will never change, no matter how you filter it. But the bottom one will change. So anything that you want to filter, you're going to see at the bottom, but you always want to look at it within the context of the big picture. So we always give you something to compare it to how the student's doing overall. And here you can see the different shades of green are the different positives, and the shades of red are the different negatives. If you tap on the donut chart, you get the legend that will tell you, again, this is all 0 because we filtered out the academic. But here you see 3 acts of kindness makes up 6.8% of my interactions with the student. 7 encouraging words makes up 15.9% of my interactions. The disruptive, 2 of them, 4.5%. So you get a real breakdown. And if you tap on a tile, it will actually pop that out here in the pie chart as well. So you have super powerful data as far as going back after class or sitting with the team and seeing that. But what I love to show the most is this plot chart. And you slide this out, and here you can see, you can zoom in on it a little bit also. This is a plot chart that shows you the beginning of the day. Here we have it starting at 10 a.m. all the way till 10:25 a.m. This is for the demo data. Starting from May, the middle of May towards the middle of June. And every green dot represents a positive feedback. Every red dot represents a misbehavior. And again, this is random data, so it's kind of all over the place. But a student who's acting out the same time every day, you're going to see that line up. You're going to see that vertical. Those clusters of red are going to clump together in the same place. And if your intervention is working, you're going to see a decrease. And here's where Mr. Conley would have benefited from his teacher having ClasStars. You would have seen that he had one really bad day. So across one horizontal line, there was a lot of red dots, but after that, he was perfect. And the teacher would have seen that and would have adjusted accordingly. So here you have this data, very clear. Once you're collecting it in ClasStars, you can see this. And this will really make a difference. When you sit down with parents, you don't have to just give anecdotal data. You can show them patterns of behavior. You can show them the positive feedback that you're giving them. You can show them how much you're caring about their child, and that makes a world of a difference as well. Does anybody have any questions up until this point?
Well, I just want to say, well, first I want to thank you for your time, but also all the people that are here. I want you to know, everybody that's on right now, I wanted them to know this. I want this to happen organically. And, we are, guys, Mo, the reason he knows about, he wanted to invest in us. He wants us to be able to pilot this and show the success. This is a new product, a new idea. It's a different way to look at how to build relationships with kids and really be intentional about how we document everything and be able to track it and and the tools. And if you need, I'm sorry about some of you guys, if you don't have iPads, if you want something, we'll try to figure out how to get you one, get you some kind of device if you're interested in this. But I just can't stress enough how much I feel like this is a great tool, because it allows us to look at our interactions with students differently and be able to really not just say, hey, I do a lot of positive affirmations with that kid or that kid. We're really able to gives us data to help us change our behaviors and meet the needs and our attention of the kids.
I can tell you a quick story that a teacher who used this towards the end of the year last year, and it was a tough situation for her because she had some kids in person and some kids on virtual. And she told me she had.
Meredith was in here.
Well, she's coming.
Okay, I'm gonna give her.
You have a question?
You're so sweet.
I just don't know.
Thank you.
Okay. So I had this teacher using it last year. She said she used it for a week. She had 5 kids in her class, and there was one kid in the class. It was a special education class. There was one kid in the class who was the prototypical class clown. The one who just makes all the trouble, the one who's always disruptive. And then there was the sidekick, I guess the Batman and Robin, dynamic duo of the class. And after using ClasStars for not even a week, she noticed she was coming down much harder on the sidekick than on the actual instigator of making the trouble. And this was a seasoned veteran, over 30 years of special education teaching, an amazing teacher. And she said, I'm looking at this dashboard and I realize this kid who's really causing all the trouble, I'm not recording any of his misbehavior. But this other kid who's just being pulled into it, he's getting all the flack. It's so not fair. And she quickly adjusted and obviously, balanced things out. So it really helps you see how you're interacting with kids. And again, these are things that we all want to do. This is not, we don't come into this for any other reason that we want to make a difference in the life of these kids. And we have the power to do that. It gives me the chills to think about the good teachers that I had when I was a kid, and to know that these kids that are going to be in our class this upcoming year, they could remember us for the rest of their lives. We could be the person to make a difference in their life, that they're always going to look back and say, it was this teacher that I had right after COVID that really changed it. And if we're lucky, we have one or two really outstanding teachers. If we could be mindful of these things and keep track of it and respond to it on a daily basis consistently, why shouldn't every teacher do this? The commitment is there, the caring is there. It's just we get swamped, we get overwhelmed, and it becomes very, very difficult. So we have about 15 minutes left. And again, I want to thank everybody. I especially want to thank Mr. Connolly for putting this all together. Really, really remarkable. And if anybody has any questions, and if not, we have two options. We can either go into more of the input functionality of ClasStars, because there's a lot more, or we can show some of the other charts and reports. So first, any questions?
I want to see if anybody has any questions. If you don't, I want to, those that want to stay can, because I know they're getting a lot of things with their rooms ready. What I really want to encourage us guys is this. I'd love for us to get some success stories like you just mentioned with the teacher, the special ed. And then if this happens, then you can share it organically. And we can keep this going where we can be a pilot school for Mo and helping him understand this, but being able to revisit Mo as you and I talk. And so maybe if you guys are seeing this success and you got questions, and nobody's recording this, but I don't want anybody to feel like you've got to stick around for the charts. If you feel like you got a good grasp of this, feel free to be excused. But if any guys want to stay with me and Mo, we'll be able to go over some more questions.
Okay, so I guess there aren't any questions. So here's what I'll ask everybody. Okay, because you have the option to put in a reaction. Raise your hand if you want to see more about the attendance and formative assessment tool. Okay, we got one. Good. Anybody else? Raise your hand if you want to see more charts. Yolanda, is that, you want to see the charts? All right, so here's what we'll do. We'll attend.
I would love to go in deeper on the charts, maybe instead of the academics, because we got so much data otherwise, Mo, and on our attendance.
Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. Okay, I'm gonna reset this, and I'm gonna do another quick run through. I'm gonna hit on the settings button right here. All right, and we're gonna take attendance upon starting class.
I did actually. I saw where Miss Gaston put somebody attendance. Mo, so that's
Yeah.
good. She want a question on that.
All right, so now, since I activated the attendance, when I start a session, the first thing that it's gonna come to, again, I can title the session. Instead of coming straight into that screen that we saw beforehand, we come to the attendance screen. And the attendance screen looks exactly the same as the other screen, except that it has this blue ribbon at the bottom. Okay, so just give it a second and the pictures will show up. We have all the kids again set up however your class is set up. And the way we take attendance is super simple. Everyone is assumed to be here. So without doing anything, everyone is present. If a child is absent, you tap on them once and their picture will fade and they get this little A. If they come in late while you're taking attendance, a second tap will mark them late. And a third tap will mark them present. Okay, so we'll mark a couple of kids absent. We'll mark this whole column absent. And when you're done, all you need to do is tap on this button here at the bottom right, end attendance. And then we just want to make sure that you want to do it. You can either go to class or stay in the attendance screen. We'll go to class. Okay. Now, the first question that I get when I do this is, what if one of these absent kids come in late? So when someone comes in late, you double tap on their picture, and that will bring up the attendance wheel to either mark them late or mark them not absent. Not absent is if you made a mistake. Maybe they really weren't absent and for some reason you didn't see them or whatever it might be. Marking them not absent will credit them for being there from the beginning. But if you mark them late.
What's really cool about this is that the way it's timestamped, guys,
Yes.
we're showing, we're able to document quickly how much, it's not just that they're tardy, but maybe they missed an hour and a half or they missed 2 hours. We're able to let their parents know how much time they're missing of instruction.
Yes. So when you mark someone late, it actually marks how late they are. So you know exactly how much time they missed. And not only that, but when you talk about invisible progress, and I had this also where a kid was coming, an hour late every day and then was only coming 20 minutes late. That's great progress, but not getting acknowledged. So you can imagine how long that kid kept up that effort. When you see kids coming less late, you can give them positive feedback on that as well. So that's super important. Now, another thing when it comes to attendance is that there are a lot of kids that are present when we take attendance, but they leave the classroom, whether it's to go to the bathroom, to the nurse, for whatever reason, and there's not really good record being kept of that. So for that, that's where you swipe to the right. When you swipe a student to the right, and we have a single swipe for that as well if you're just getting started, but here you can actually mark that a student is leaving the room, either to the restroom, for services, for discipline, for an errand, maybe a quick 5-minute break, maybe they were excused, maybe they went to the nurse, or maybe they were absent and you just missed them during absence. That will mark that they were absent from the beginning of the class. But if you tap on restroom here, you get this little restroom icon, and now you know that Jocelyn went out to the restroom. Now, if you're teaching and some time passes and you're wondering, it's been a while since Jocelyn was here, a single tap on Jocelyn will bring up the menu at the bottom and tell you exactly how long she's been out. When she comes back, a double tap will bring her in and you know exactly how much time she missed. And I remember the first time we were piloting this in a high school, and a teacher was using it and a kid went out for the bathroom 9 minutes. And he came back after 9 minutes and the teacher said, you were out for 9 minutes. And the kid said, no, I wasn't. I was only out for 2 minutes. And the teacher said, no, you were out for 9 minutes. I have it documented right here. She said, from that moment on, everything changed because the kids knew that there was accountability. They knew that the teacher was keeping track. It's a very simple swipe and a tap. And again, you could do it on single swipe mode. If you tap on single swipe, it's just a swipe and it's a general, not in your seat. And a double tap always brings them back. And in the settings, you can customize to have single swipe for certain wheels and not others. So if you kind of want to break in slowly, you could do that as well. Now, finally, the last component in the input is the academic wheel. And that's when you swipe a student to the left. That activates the academic wheel. And that's when you're going to do your formative assessment. You ask Jocelyn a question. I pick on Jocelyn because she sits in the center of the room. That's the only reason. And it happens to be that there's research that suggests that kids that sit on the periphery of the classroom are less engaged. So ClasStars definitely helps for that. But I'm always picking on Jocelyn because she's smack in the center. So you ask Jocelyn a question, and if she got it right, you have two options: advanced or basic. Advanced is if she shows mastery, basic if it's just she's showing basic competency. On track means that she didn't get it right, but it's maybe she was brave, maybe there's some positive element to it. So that's important. Incorrect is what it is, and other is some other positive academic interaction, contribution. If you got a positive academic feedback, that's going to show up in the 2-day meter as a yellow notch. So you can actually distinguish between kids that have gotten non-academic positive feedback over the last 2 days and academic positive feedback over the last 2 days. And there's a benefit to each. The benefit to the non-academic is that the teacher owns that. The child does not need to do anything to earn it. You can go over to any kid and give them positive feedback that's non-academic. So you can completely control that. But the academic, the downside of that is that you don't control it. The student actually has to do something, but because it's earned, it's more valuable. So this allows the teacher to look and identify the kids that have not been engaged over the last 2 days, both non-academically and academically. So that's super useful as well. We also have a quick quiz mode. If you tap on this menu button, here's where you can arrange the layout, and here's where you can check for homework. But if you tap on quick quiz, we will actually select a child for you to do a formative assessment with. It will jump around the room. It highlights Valentine. You just ask her the question, tap on her response, and it will pick somebody else. It's random, but it's leaning more towards the kids that are engaged the least. So this is meant to make sure that everyone is included. You can go through the entire class with quick quiz. You can pause it at any time if you want to have some other interaction, or you can end it at any time. And you don't have to go through it, and you can do it again. So the quick quiz mode helps you make sure that your formative assessment is balanced and that you're getting to everybody. So those are the last two inputs. And now when we close the session, I can show you a couple of more charts. All right, now we can take a look at the attendance dashboard. The class-wide attendance dashboard will give you, similar to the behavior dashboard, which gave you a bar chart next to everybody, the attendance dashboard will give you a pie chart next to everybody. Okay, and we're gonna select a larger date range so that we got some more colors in here just to make it look pretty. And here you go. So let's take a look at Jocelyn. You see there's green, there's blue, there's some yellow and red in there. And the legend is up here. Green means that they were present. Red is for the times that they were absent. Yellow is for the times they were late. And blue is for the times that they left class.
So that's also when you think about leaving class early. Sometimes a lot of instruction we lose leaving class early for doctor's appointments or going to a pep rally or going to a game or going out of town. And a lot of parents feel that that's not important. If my kid's there till lunchtime, I'm good. But no, this can document the time they're leaving, how much instruction time they're missing.
And here you go, because you have for everything both the counts and the time that it adds up to. So in this case, there are 39 classes of which Jocelyn was present. I'm sorry, totaling 35 hours and 56 minutes. Of that, she was present 38 times, totaling 33 hours and 31 minutes, sorry. She was absent once, totaling an hour. She was late twice, totaling 10 minutes. And she left 12 times, totaling an hour and 15 minutes. So that's pretty substantial right there, missing an hour and 15 minutes of class time due to leaving in middle of class for bathroom breaks, ball games, or appointments, whatever it might be. So this shows you this very clearly. But even more so, when you tap on the three dots, also like we had for behavior, we have the individual attendance dashboard. And it takes just a second to load up. Again, it's the same format as before. We have the timeline across the top. And we're going to pull in the timeline so that we're using only the random data. You could see that there's activity up here. Again, we have all of the records in this column. You can see here, restroom break, missed less than a minute on, oh, sorry about that here. 5-minute break on June 11th at 10:03, missed 4 minutes. Restroom break June 10th at 10:03, missed 8 minutes. Again, we have all the records here and the filtered records here. Tap on the donut chart to get the legend and see present 50% of the time. But these are the counts, not the times. But if you want to see both of them, again, you pull this out and we give you a timeline that's going to show you. The yellow shows, that they came late, starting from the beginning of the class, running through the day. The green, the dark green means that they were present the entire time. The blue means that they left in the middle of class. Red is for being absent. So here you could see the trends, the patterns of the attendance records in ways like you've never seen before. So that's most of it. That's the bulk of it. And again, we have a couple of minutes left. So if anybody has any questions here, and I'm happy to come back in a couple of weeks, and I invite everyone to reach out. If anybody has any questions or needs any help, you could speak with Principal Conley. You can email me directly. I'll give you all my email address. And happy to help in any kind of way that I can.
I like what you said earlier. This, to me, Mo, is like an efficient way to have accountability. Accountability for how I'm interacting with students as the teacher, accountability for attendance and behaviors, and also being tardy and being able to do it in a way that with practice, I think you would agree that you put a lot into this, where you make it as efficient as possible for teachers to be able to do that and still have an effective way to hold themselves and their students accountable.
Yeah, well, the thing is, you start off slow. You don't do all of this all at once. Like I said all the way in the beginning, just make sure you're giving everybody positive feedback every day. That's really the first step, because you want to make sure that the kids are seen every day. And there are a lot of ways to do it. You don't need to use ClasStars. You can take a good old-fashioned class list and just check off kids as you're giving them positive feedback, and then look at it the next day and see if you missed anybody. You could definitely do it that way. But by using ClasStars, you get so much more data because you get the time. Some kids need, at different times of the day, and then you start to use it for misbehavior as well. And now you have suddenly the border color. You can identify the kids that need more positive feedback. That's not going to work on an old-fashioned class list. So you take it step by step. You work it one step at a time. And another thing that I tell teachers is that, when you talk about accountability, when you have to sit down with parents with a struggling student, what does it look like when you have a good teacher with a struggling student? It bugs me to no end that teacher evaluation is so tightly tied to student performance. It's so unfair to measure teacher performance based on student performance. Students can struggle for a whole host of reasons. But with ClasStars, you have a way of showing that you're doing your job. You're engaging every kid. You're watching every kid. You're having good relationships with every kid. If that's not enough, you need to call in the reserves. You need to call for backup. But you can sit down with parents and show the first thing the parent wants to know. Do you care about my child? That's the first thing. And if you can document your concern for their child, because the ones who are struggling are getting the most positive feedback, and you can show them that,
you create trust. You create trust.
That's half the battle.
Trust, you got relationships, and you just said you are doing enough. If you're doing these things, you're going to have success. Every kid's going to grow and have success, and that's what we believe here in Pine Tree. We believe at Birch and Parkway. We believe in relationships and growth, Mo, and you know it. You see it. We love these kids. We're raising the bar, and we're changing the world, man. We appreciate your access and your time today. I think everybody that's on here and for giving their time, and I want them to know that I'm, we talk about we're different, and this is those things make us different, and this is a great tool, and I'm excited to see us use it. I'm actually going to try to use it myself and really try to be intentional about how I'm holding myself accountable, my affirmations to everybody. So I thank you so much, man.
My pleasure. Thank you. Thanks for making this happen. And thanks everybody for coming. And again, feel free to reach out if anybody has any questions. Take care, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.